It's the first night of summer after 6th grade. You're 11 years old sleeping over at a friend's house and decide to put on a movie. You start watching Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. You're having the time of your life, cracking jokes and eating candy, when suddenly a guy who's tied up gets his heart ripped out of his fucking chest by a person wearing a skull as a helmet and it's beating in the dude's hand? Do you A. Act like everything is fine. You've seen scary movies before. B. Ask your friend if they want to watch something else. Or C. Immediately start sobbing and call your parents to come pick you up because you've just seen something you can't possibly comprehend at the age of 11. Don't worry, there's no wrong answer. The stuff that you can find in old PG movies is more insane than you could ever imagine. I'm not talking about the occasional damn or realistic portrayals of panic attacks, or even something kind of creepy. I'm talking face ripping, body part tearing, full-on firing squad executions, the whole lot. Not even 50 years ago, the movie rating system as we know it today was far simpler. Founded in 1968, it contained all the ratings we still use, all except one. PG-13 wasn't introduced until 1984, and let me tell ya, in those 16 years, some shenanigans were had. Although, to be fair, I still don't know if you could get away with ripping someone's heart out so gratuitously in a PG-13 movie these days, but that's besides the point. Not only that, it took a lot for a movie to be rated R. Actually, there was really only one thing that pretty much guaranteed your movie would receive an R rating. Can anyone take a guess? Guns? That's G. Someone ripping their own face off? That's PG. Characters smoking and drinking? Definitely age appropriate. A woman showing her body for half a second? Definitely R. Let's go back to Indiana Jones for a second. Or more specifically, Steven Spielberg. I'm calling you out, man. You scarred countless children, and I feel like I'm the only one who sees it. He's almost like an American Miyazaki, creating timeless, beautiful movies that many people hold dear from their childhood, with one important thing in common. That scene that's forever burned into the back of your mind since you saw it when you were a kid. While these older movies were generally rated PG, they always felt much more mature, like they carried more weight than the rating implied. A big reason for what inspired this video is I was flipping through channels one night looking for something to put on when I stumbled upon the 1982 classic Poltergeist. And fuck, I have absolutely no clue how this movie got rated PG. For all you TikTokers watching, there's a scene where a character goes up to a mirror and notices a cut on his face. Any guesses for what might happen next? Imagine you were a babysitter and trying to kill time by taking the kids to the movies, thinking that Poltergeist would be something like Casper the Friendly Cartoon Ghost. Anyway, the character reaches up and starts peeling the skin off of their own face and doesn't stop until it turns into a red slushie. I'm confident I can't show any of this on YouTube without getting demonetized. And to be honest with you, it's still pretty gory and effective to this day. This was back in the 80s, so there was no James Cameron to come in and make everything CGI with his Avatar tech. You can tell it's a practical effect with the actor wearing a prosthetic over their actual face, but still, it's a lot. There's no way this would make it into anything less than an R rating today. PG. I wish I could somehow go back in time and set up cameras in a theater when Poltergeist was premiering and capture that audience reaction. Can you imagine all the React content I could get out of that? Poltergeist was directed by Tobe Hooper, the guy responsible for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and other things. It was also produced and co-written by Steven Spielberg, fresh off the hype of Raiders of the Lost Ark, the beloved PG movie with the whole face melting thing. Something tells me he was in the background, whispering into Toby's ear, pulling the strings, making sure the film was made how he wanted. Funnily enough, the PG-13 rating was introduced 2 years after Poltergeist came out, directly in response to it and other similar movies such as Gremlins. I think parents were finally fed up of accidentally scarring their children when they were looking to enjoy a nice time at the movies. Side note, The Thing also released in 1982, and it's still one of the best horror movies ever made. Seriously, if you like horror, go watch it. I don't care if it's old or whatever, it holds up, it has killer special effects, and inspired a lot of your favorite horror movies. Check it out. Back to the video. It is unimaginable today to think that you could walk into a G-rated movie and see some dude get lit up by a firing squad of monkeys, all shown directly on camera. I don't even think I can show that here. That's like if in Kung Fu Panda 4, Jack Black suddenly got fed up with all the martial arts stuff and pulled out an AK-47 and went to town. That would literally never happen. Not in a PG movie anyway. You might get sued if you tried to pull that. I don't know, but that's exactly what happens in Beneath the Planet of the Apes, released more than 50 years ago, with a nice G rating. How about a G-rated cartoon involving drunken bar fights, kidnappings, and death? Also check. There are multiple instances in the movie where characters point guns at each other, drink alcohol, and some actually die. That's an interesting trend I came across while making this video. Guns in animated movies. Back in the 70s and 80s, they were everywhere, and these movies were rated G. I can't remember the last time I saw a gun on screen in any PG or G movie outside of Studio Ghibli's classics when depicting wartime. I'm just pretty sure you can't do that anymore. There definitely won't be a modern day Bambi. Also, was anyone else forced to watch Watership Down in school? You know, the cute animated movie about rabbits that, well, if you know, you know. Don't watch this one if you're an animal lover. The first official R-rated movie in Hollywood was The Split in 1968, directed by Gordon Fleming. And to be honest, from what I could find, it does seem like it was on the milder side of that rating. Some swearing, some shooting, and public drinking, which was seen as a big "don't show this in your movies" taboo back then. There's also a scene of a woman in bed. You know what that means. It's your typical crime heist thriller, and besides being the first movie to be rated R in Hollywood, I couldn't find any accolades or awards congratulating its filmmaking or story or characters, so there's that. The first official PG-13 movie was Red Dawn in 1984, and it's about communism. Besides a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, I couldn't find much else noteworthy about it. If you were to try and pitch a movie to a studio these days and sell it as a thriller with a wide appeal because it has a PG rating, they'd kick you out immediately. Those two things don't even go together. It wouldn't make sense. But that's what Jaws is. It's one of the most famous movies of all time, and no one considers the fact that it's rated PG. It doesn't matter because the movie itself is so good, it transcends the rating. I know I'm not alone in generally thinking most movies coming out now that are rated PG aren't made for me at all, but this definitely wasn't always the case. The vast majority of movies were rated PG, and the R rating was seen as a warning to parents more than anything else. It's interesting how much has changed in so little time. PG-13 was introduced exactly 40 years ago. Isn't that kind of crazy? That's like not even that old in people years. Now every time I watch a new episode of House of the Dragon, the more disclaimer boxes that pop up, the more hype I am. Nudity, sex, violence, language, smoking, it's all there. A long way from one or two letters to describe the content of something. And don't get me wrong, this is better. I'm sure there are a lot of babysitters out there that might have lost their gig 40 years ago if they accidentally went to, I don't know, Planet of the Apes. I'm not advocating to hide any surprising moments behind a general rating to trick audiences. It's far better to know what you're going into and what the movie will be like concerning mature themes. But this does kind of make it easier to box movies into categories and know what's going to happen before sitting down. Along with this, cursing and bad words have become much more guarded. PG-13 movies are infamous for the one fuck they can drop.
Open the fucking door!
And you'll never hear it used in a G movie. The Legend of Hell House released in 1973 and was rated PG. That's just funny. Messed up PG movies do extend into the early 2000s as well. Does anyone else remember Bridge to Terabithia? Sorry, spoilers, but the only reason I do is because the girl dies at the end. Like, actually dies. There was a theme in older children's movies of characters explicitly dying for literally any reason. When does that ever happen in a PG movie anymore? Outside of that, when does that ever happen in any movie or show anymore?
She's dead.
I'm looking at you, 52 spin-off Star Wars TV shows. Of course, PG movies can still have mature and adult themes, believe me. But in this context, you can feel it. There will never be another PG thriller or horror movie, never to the extent of Jaws. The last PG movie I can think of that really pushed the envelope as far as content and overall feeling of intensity was Coraline, but even that was more about the vibe and atmosphere rather than showing excessive violence or gore. Beetlejuice just got a remake this year, and it's PG-13. I imagine they'd have to tone it down too much if they were to go for a PG rating again. PG-13, for the most part now, does feel a little constricting in terms of new horror or thriller movies. The movie M3gan was good, but you can tell it's holding back a bit. It's frustrating, because you can obviously see there was an R-rated movie somewhere in there, with a camera cutting away early in the somewhat disjointed fight scenes. Finding out a horror movie you were excited for is rated PG-13 is the same feeling you get when a new game trailer releases, only to find out at the end that it's a multiplayer live service hero shooter. There are some genuinely good PG-13 horror movies out there. Mama and Split come to mind, but these are few and far between. Studios seem afraid to go for the big R because they want the most amount of people to watch their movie, even if the subject matter itself needs the more adult rating to fully explore and flesh out its ideas. I think Deadpool and Wolverine and the Joker movie might have just changed that for the better, but time will tell. Hopefully it encourages studios to hold back less if they're trying to tell a mature story. Releasing an unrated version on streaming after the fact isn't ideal, but hey, I'll take it. I'm still talking about Megan, not Rebel Moon. Sorry, Zack Snyder. I think the only general rated movies now that have any semblance of maturity happen to be animated. I'm not gonna go down this rabbit hole again, Aladdin, Puss in Boots, every Studio Ghibli film, etc. Even still, what is shown on screen is nothing compared to what you used to be able to get away with when the rating system was so rigid and new in its structure. It is kind of swinging in the opposite direction now, it seems. At first, G and PG movies were not at all appropriate for kids. Then, PG-13 was introduced, and the vast majority of edgy movies that wanted the widest possible appeal targeted that rating. Now, thanks to the internet, I think people of all ages are going to R-rated movies more than ever. As someone with younger cousins consuming TikTok and all other social media bloat, for better or worse, they're certainly less affected by scary movies than I was when I was a kid. I have vivid memories of sitting around a laptop with friends, watching the original Paranormal Activity through my fingers, terrified at what might happen. My experience with horror had only included a spooky Animal Crossing island on the 3DS up to that point. Now, I can't tell you how many people I saw come out of Deadpool and Wolverine that were probably a little too young for all the dismemberment, blood, and adult humor. It's certainly a trend I've noticed. I saw Longlegs in theaters, and half of the movie was ruined by loudmouth teenagers, so I'm not saying it's all positive. At the end of the day, I think it's best to write the film and story you want to tell and worry about how the rating falls last. I know that's not how any of this works, and there's a million people working on any given movie, but successful films and franchises do have that trait, a feeling of a singular vision and a cohesive story. Just look at 2017's Justice League, for example. It released, was rated PG-13, and pretty much flopped across the board thanks to a disjointed story and character writing. Then, almost 4 years later, the movie was re-released with a Snyder Cut, which was widely regarded as the better movie by fans. To be fair, I didn't see either of them because the re-release is like 4 hours long, and no, that's not an exaggeration. It's funny that over the last few years, it seems more and more studios are far less hesitant to go for an R rating than before. Either the movie is made for kids, or it's not. Let's not take any half measures here, which is how all this started, without a PG-13 rating in the first place. You still can't show smoking or guns in a G movie, but it's less likely now that you might be pressured into toning something down in order to keep a PG-13 rating. And let's be real, you can pretty much watch any movie on your computer or phone at any given point wherever you are anyway, so there's no need to worry about getting a fake ID or trying to sneak past theater employees. That hasn't been the case for too long, but with our movies clearly selling more at the box office, don't be surprised if more popular franchises start leaning that way as well.